Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunny Preps. I'm Sunny. It's a little cloudy this morning, but the natural light still is way better than artificial light, so we're back out on the porch and I'm going to take you on a tour of my garden and talk about what I've learned so far this year, my first year in gardening. My philosophy when I started gardening was not only to create healthy fruits and vegetables, that's great, but since I'm sort of in the idea of prepping and trying to be self-sustaining, I was also worried about the idea of calorie deficit gardening, and so I wanted to plant things that had more calories in them. As far as, ability to really sustain a person or a family. So that's how I picked what I decided to grow a little bit. Some things I just thought were really versatile, like tomatoes. I don't eat a lot of raw tomatoes, but it's so versatile in salsa and in pasta sauces and, just all kind of chili, hamburger helper, taco seasoning, whatever, so I started a lot of tomatoes, and they were very, very slow getting started, but they all survived and took off. So I have over 50 plants, which is insane in the tiny little amount of space that I have, and some of them have been taken over by the squash plants, and it's a complete jungle back there, but I'll show you that as we're walking around. So here's a view of most of the garden from the porch. I'll tell you a little bit more about my place as we go along, and I tell you more of my story, but thought I'd show you real quick. Here's my wicker furniture, and I'm trying to dry some herbs here on the screened-in porch. And this is my mural that I hung up to sort of give my neighbor some privacy. And I have this sign that I still need to hang up. But other than that, a tiny little tabletop grill, which would be great, if we didn't have electricity. And I have lots of it'll take the little propane bottles too, so I have little propane bottles. And now we'll come down. The other part, my tomato plants. Now these things are 7 feet tall at least now. They were drooping, all kinds of drooping and falling, and see, I've tied them up quite a bit. And then I had to build this trellis, which I have some video of. Maybe I'll cut into it later, but I decided to go with these furring strips just because they were really inexpensive. They're $1 a piece, and I used the washers because the screws split the first one so badly that I was trying to hold up. And then this is just to add some stability as well in the junction. Originally the plan was to take another board across the top and connect to a second arch like this about 4 feet on the other side, and that might still need to happen because those are still really drooping. I've gone in here and thinned a little bit, but it got so dark I couldn't see anymore, so I had to stop. But here we are in August, and all of these tomatoes are green, but there's a ton of them. These in the grow bags are Brandywines, and so they'll be good for slicing, and it'll probably all go into making paste and sauce and maybe even some tomato powder. But you see, I still have things just sort of drooping over the fence and starting to head back down. So I do need a little bit more. Here's the construction zone back here and the beginnings of a second trellis. I had thought originally about putting the second trellis on the other side of this section, but they just aren't as big. Those are the Amish paste. But I'm finally getting a little ripe tomato. These are small, but they're getting ripe. Some of the other Amish pastes are much bigger. Okay, now let's walk back into, try not to make you sick by walking so fast. And I mean, I'm almost 6 feet. I'm at 5'8", used to be 5'9", and this is almost just as high as I can reach. And I think now that it's on the, snapped off completely. I don't have my, it's got a little tomato on it. I don't know. I think that's gonna have to come off. Okay. So we'll go back inside. I have blueberries in these buckets. And I tried to I ordered trees online, and they just never did anything after I planted them. I think I need to contact the company and just get my money back. I think they were shipped too soon. We got a really sudden, or not a sudden, but very cold spell, pretty late in the spring after they had been shipped. And there I see something, I need to get that tied up. But these are on the buckets are the Amish paste. And VW Family Farm said that was one of their big winners for the year, so hopefully that'll be one of my big winners. Now back against that back, or over that back fence, and then coming up over a trellis in front. Oh my goodness, I have another squash. I'm so excited. I think I need to go ahead and harvest that one back there. Not only is that part of the plant dying, I believe this powdery mildew is killing that, because we do get a lot of shade. You see, we're right at the edge of the woods. I am nowhere near the country. There is a major road and very urban area down over the hill, and industrial park over that way. But as you can see, I can't see any of it from here. That's one of the things I like about this house. But here's my new baby squash. And yes, I know that's not very good for SHTF, being so close to an urban area. This is not my permanent home. And if I really felt like I needed to go, I have plans. We'll talk about that later. That was the first squash I've ever identified on this plant. I saw it when it was just a female flower and hadn't actually grown yet. And then all of a sudden that big monster one popped up on the other side. I'm thinking it ripened faster just because it's getting so much more sunlight. Oh look, there's another one. I'm so glad. I thought I had dedicated this much space to this. Oh, there's a rotten tomato I threw back here. So much space to the squash plant, and I had only found 2 squash on it. So I'm excited to find more, but look at all of these flowers. These are all male flowers though, as far as I can tell. But they're really pretty back here in the yard. Now, I tried to plant things too close together because my yard is so small. So we had what was originally a tomato, and then it got taken over by cucumber, and locust shell. But you can see there are tomatoes growing. I believe this is another Amish paste on this side. This one is actually Triple L, and I did get a tomato cage around this one, but it's still huge. I'm wanting to take over. Triple L climbing, and we've just got all these green tomatoes. And my gardener said to thin out the leaves if there's a lot of them growing together, because that will help the fruit. ripen. So now here is the other squash plant that came from over there. And it was back against that fence is where it started. And I have one spaghetti squash that I found off of that. And hopefully it'll start making more spaghetti squash too. This tomato that again is out, I need taller things. I have more of the furring strips. Hopefully I'll be able to use that as a support for this. That might also be another triple L. But we have tomatoes mixed in here. It's just turned into an absolute jungle. And then the cucumber plant growing against this fence. It's come all the way down here and it's now dipping down over here. It's actually growing out away from the fence on the other side, but my neighbor doesn't mind. Now these raised beds, I made them. I had $20 worth of wood in each one of them. These are fence pickets, actually, for privacy fence. I had the little 2x4s that I used as the center support pieces, and it's just basically sitting on top of the grass. I just set it down on top of the grass, and then I covered the grass a little bit with some stuff, and I used the Hugel method. You can see the peas have died off, they're done, but the beans over here are still looking fantastic. Some of these have gone to, I'm letting them go to seed so I can harvest the seeds. I like picking these really long noodle beans when they're very young, and they're still, I mean, a little older than this, but when they're young, they're still snappy and feel like green beans. When they get a little bit bigger, they get spongy. My daughter bit into one and ran to the trash and spit it out because she didn't expect it to be spongy. But you know, that's getting way too old now. It's going to seed, but when they're really young, they're really good. But oh, the stink bugs like these noodle beans. That is just not cool. We don't need stink bugs. Anyway, the garden beds, I just set them down. I leveled them out a little bit if they were really bad. The yard slopes, so the beds slope a little bit too. And then I used the Hugel method, which I first learned about from Self-Sustaining Me, a guy in Australia, a YouTuber in Australia, and he has some interesting ideas. Obviously his growing zone is a lot different than mine, but he has interesting structural ideas that I'll probably use another one of those in the next year. Okay, so the Hugel method, if you don't know, is putting logs and wood and other organic material down in the bottom. And I had a tree cut down back here last fall, and so I had the trunk of the tree they saved for me to use. So I used a lot of that in here. I used a lot of where I trimmed bushes and trees. I put them all on the bottom. I shredded some of the wood. I got a wood chipper and shredded some of that and put it down in there. The wood chipper doesn't really work well enough, I think, to make wood chips on top, but it might. I'll have to keep working with it. I've recently cut back my kale, and I was planning to use it as mulch on something else. But let me show you these tomatoes. This art like this is all the rage. I actually cut a little bit off of this so it wouldn't be too tall, and this I cut off of one side, so my arch is kind of lopsided because it was folded to get home in the truck. This one I cut off of both sides, so it's actually even. It's a nice arch. But you see this growing up here? That's tomato. That's tomato, and I'm pretty sure these are these are Amish paste. Can see the shape of them makes me think it's an Amish paste, not a brandy wine. And these are getting ginormous. I mean, it's all the way. It's up there. That's got to be 8 feet tall. I mean, I know it has a little bit of an advantage, maybe a foot off the ground here. But Jess from Roots and Refuge, you'll hear me talking about her a lot because she's the one I've been watching a lot with my gardening, for gardening information. And she said she had a trick where she put an egg down in the hole before she transplanted the tomato out into the garden. And so these 3 are the only ones that I did that with, and they are huge. Now there are a lot of other problems, so I can't really tell you for sure that that's what made it happen, because all the Amish paste in the buckets didn't take off that well, but their growth is limited by the bucket. So, but it's amazing. And my brother was here when I wanted to plant these, and I asked him to run in the house and get 3 eggs out of the fridge for me. And then he watched me put them down in the holes and cover them up. And he said, you know, that's not how you grow chickens. Smart aleck. So of course I looked at him, I said, duh, I'm not growing chickens, I'm growing eggplant. Okay, not really. I was growing tomatoes, and they're looking fantastic. I think I need to come in and thin these out, and now that the peas have completely died on this side, they are getting more sunlight here. Definitely need to come cut down some trees, or peas, I'm sorry. And here was an attempt at cabbage. My cabbage, my broccoli, and my cauliflower grew nicely, but just never formed a head, and I'm not sure why. And then there are onions mixed in with the grass down here. This grass. I didn't have much problem with weeds until the last few weeks, and now the weeds are really need to be hacked at. The onions seem to be growing nicely down in the middle of them, but not getting too huge. And I also heard Jess say one time that the first year you garden, what you harvest is knowledge. Anything you get to eat after that is a bonus. And I am definitely harvesting knowledge on this. And one of my gems of knowledge is to not plant more than you can take care of. And I'm really, really busy. So I'm not going to do a fall garden, even though I hear everybody talking about a fall garden, because I'm just too busy. I might plant some more lettuce or something that grows really quickly and doesn't take much. Here's one of my broccoli stalks. Oops. There's broccoli, but this is the first for it actually falling out of the bed this morning. And these are lima beans. And I'm not sure when to pick lima beans, if anybody knows. And these are like furry. I've never knew they would be furry. So these are one of my, high in carb things that I grew. I've never really eaten dried beans very much, maybe in baked beans, and that's about it. So look, I have more green beans to come harvest. There is Blue Lake bush beans. We're supposed to be between the trellis and the fence thing that is holding up the lima beans. They just got crammed in there, but they did produce quite a bit. And then this is a pepper plant. that I've already harvested a few peppers off of, and here I get some more. The peppers that I seeded didn't grow very much, so I ended up buying some plants from the Lowe's or someplace like that, and they've done really nicely, but I'm afraid their seeds won't be able to be saved. So everything else I bought was heirloom seeds, so I could save seeds from them. And this is my cauliflower, and you can see it's getting bug damage now, but it really just didn't grow. And again, I'm not sure what I did wrong, but anyway, I definitely need to spend some time in here cleaning out all the dead stuff and preparing for harvesting tomatoes, which is definitely going to be coming soon. Okay, I'm going to take you around to the front. I did want to mention that one of the things I have come to realize is that I might be in zone 6A. So if you get back further, even the dead stuff doesn't look too bad. I'm in zone 6A or B as far as the map goes, but I'm on the north side of a mountain, and the garden is on the north side of the yard, and we get shade from the trees, and those are not on my property, and I cannot cut them down. And I wouldn't anyway. I love the trees. But the front of the house does get sun, so I think I'm going to do more with the front of the house next time. Okay, here we are out front, and you might be able to tell it's a little bit brighter out here. And I did get some of these stackable garden things, and they are doing really well. You know, I have some things that are just for decoration, although I have learned from Jen at Stivers Homestead that I can use my marigolds for salves and teas and things, so I might start doing that. And these are supposed to, you know, you can just water the top and it'll go down through all of it, but it doesn't do it very well. And so I've added a watering system, although I've made mistakes. So when I take these apart for the winter, I'm going to make some edits to my design. Like I need to come out and trim the dead heads off. And some of the things we had didn't grow. So I am rooting some clips off of this, which I'm not sure what this is, but I think of it as a type of coleus, but I'm not sure if that's really what it is. And I'm gonna fill in the spots. And I think this is actually one of the peppers that I grew from seed, and it's finally starting, but I'm not positive about that. Yes, it's a red bell pepper that I actually grew from my own seeds, I think. Then I grew Chianti peppers. Now these are not doing well. A hot pepper mix. It's not doing well, but this one over here, I mean, it's okay. It's alive. It's been growing. It's just so slow. I'm thinking these actually must be ones that came from the nursery, the Bonnie Bell. Now I know that one is, and that's a yellow. I've actually already harvested some peppers off of these, and they were fantastic. My daughter said the red ones tasted like candy. Here though, this I definitely planted from seeds, the hot pepper mix. And I actually have a little hot pepper, a curly little hot pepper on here. And this tiny little plant, I don't know if you can see how small that plant is, and it's growing a mighty little pepper. And it has another flower on it, so hopefully I'll get some more. This one, the Chianti, I grew that from seed as well, so it's finally growing a nice pepper on it. This is one of the Bonnie Bell, or one of the Bonnie plants from the greenhouse, but it's giving me some peppers. This was a banana pepper, and it gave me a couple banana peppers and then stopped, but now it does have more blossoms on it. So I think because it's out front, I never come in the house this way, and it got ignored for a while. We had so much rain at the beginning of the year that I did not get in the habit of watering, and you can see there's rain. We had rain last night. I didn't get in the habit of watering, and so these had a period where they were a little dry. These things are turning brown, and I think that's my fault because they used to sit out here where these are, and I pushed them back out of the way, but I pushed them under the awning, which needs to be painted, and now they don't get any of the rainwater. Sorry guys, that was actually a home delivery milk truck. I didn't even know they ever still had these. My neighbor told me they used to do it, but he thought they stopped. This is where I started my seeds, and I just haven't cleaned up my mess from that yet. Some of the stuff just didn't work. Some of the spices got switched over to these little wagons. Aren't they adorable? I need to mow the grass really bad. But we've got basil and marjoram and sage, and I think this is, I don't know, that was supposed to be thyme, but it kind of looks like it might just be a weed, and Greek oregano and grass. And then again, the marigolds. I got the marigolds because, for one thing, they're just prolific. But for the other thing, they are supposed to keep the deer away. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I need my clippers. And despite the fact that there are marigolds right here in my flower stack, the deer came up and they had just a little buffet of my lettuce. They had chewed it right down to the nubs for a while, and then I recently let it dry out, so it's coming back after drying out. But that's butter crunch lettuce, and it's delicious. And of course here we have mint. I'm actually letting this go to seed on purpose because I wanted to spread mint through the yard. When I was a kid, we had mint growing in our yard, and every time we mowed the grass, it just smelled amazing. Now I took clippings of this, and I have some of it drying on the back porch, and so it did well, and there's more. You can see there's more mint popping up down here. So even though this one big stalk is going to kind of die off down here at the bottom, this will not go away. See, there's more growing right there, and I think this is, I don't know. Yep, that's mint too. That little stick. So, see, I think there's too much light out here for the impatiens. But anyway, that's my garden now. Since this is the southern side of the house, we get a lot of sunlight out here. And I have this nice big porch. I don't know if you can see it. Right now it's got this really ugly awning on it, and I so badly want to rip down this awning. However, it provides a lot of shade for the porch and helps keep the house cool, but I have air conditioning. So I think what I'm going to do is take this down, and if I can get to it this fall, I'm going to create a screened in porch, door and everything, and have a drop, clear plastic drop that I can lower down when I want it to be a greenhouse, and then a privacy drop that I can lower down when I want either some shade in the greenhouse or just privacy on the front porch, because we are really just a few feet from the sidewalk and the road. And I'll tell you more about my house and the housing situation later in another video, because I think this one is getting long enough. So that's the front. Some decoration and some food. Works for me. Okay, this is me being accountable. Getting on the tread climber. Unfortunately, my camera's doing the filming and I can't listen to my favorite YouTube channels while I'm doing it and filming. But here it goes. Okay. So as you can see, I'm not doing it very long, but it's enough to get me winded. It is on a pretty steep incline. So I wanted to show you this. 1 hatch mark means I did it in the morning. 2 hatch marks mean I did it in the evening also. So been doing good. Okay. Thanks for coming over. My house is a disaster. Don't look at it. Don't forget that a rainy day is no match for a sunny disposition. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you the next time. Bye.